Good evening. How are you tonight? Everyone okay? Hey, thanks for that prayer, brother. Thanks for that prayer. Thank you so much. Yeah. So my name is Paul Simmons. I'm with Butler PA Patriots, and I want to just thank everyone that for having me here tonight. It's an honor. Thanks to Zach, Chet for getting me up here, and it gives me an opportunity to kind of explain some of my thinking. Basically, what I want to do is have a conversation with everyone tonight. This is not a solution, it's not someone coming in on a white horse going to save the day. This is a conversation to stimulate the thought process so that we can make a difference. And I think there's some things we need to think about and consider in terms of direction and how we're doing things. We're going to have to do a few things concurrently, just like our friends say, chew gum and do other things at the same time. So, as I said, I'm Paul Simmons, former certified clinical chemist, former business owner. I'm a student of macroeconomics, so I study macroeconomics quite a bit, and former American Frontline Doctors Citizens Corps state leader. So tonight's presentation, basically, here's what we're going to be talking about. Is a change in tactics required for organizations such as this? And if so, where do we go? A political solution. Can we save this country via politics? Well, first of all, Catherine Arthur and Fitz made the comment that a political problem requires a political solution. So at some point, politics is going to have to come into play again. So I'll share something with you. I don't know if we're all on the same page in terms of the information that we've received in the past year, okay? I was talking with a business associate of mine who's extremely successful. And how many people are familiar with central bank digital currencies that are coming out? Okay, so plenty of people. And he's got this viable business, big business. But we've been talking politics lately a little bit. We've been sharing some things. And I said, hey, Ron, I said, you got this big business, this big trucking firm. The CBDs are coming out. What are you going to do? Are you going to enter into that system? He says, heck no. I said, well, what are you going to do? He says, I don't know. So here's a guy, owns a big firm, and he doesn't know what he's going to do. So we're going to talk about central bank digital currencies and some other things, but this should put you on notice that we need to know what we're going to do, and we can't ignore reality. Ignoring reality is very detrimental to your survival. So moving on here, some of the things we're going to be talking about is the challenges that we face today. The World Economic Forum. How many people are familiar with the World Economic Forum? Hey, here we go. U.S. and world financial situation. How many people are familiar with the financial situation we're in? Central bank digital currencies and the digital ID prison. It's going to be fun. Then we're going to talk about a potential grassroots share of the solution, which would be a parallel economy. So, tell me if you experienced pretty much the same thing that I experienced during the last since March of 2020. We had the COVID-19 threat and the pandemic. We had vaccines, lockdowns, masks, and mandates. And then, almost as soon as that started occurring, we started to see the censorship. I was watching a blog on the internet, on YouTube. And right in the middle of his conversation, he was talking about a clinical trial. He was shut down. And I'm thinking to myself, they're shutting this guy down for a clinical trial? You can't even talk about that? So that red flag really went up. And some of the renowned virologists and scientists started raising the red flag and shouting at the tops of their lungs. And one of the things that towards the end of this process, it was just after about a year and a half, I caught a episode of Ryan Christian, The Last American Vagabond. I assume no one has heard of Ryan Christian. Okay, so he's got great research. Whitney Webb is one of his researchers, and she just came out with a book, and it details everything about all this stuff. And I'm going to have some notes that if you ask Zach or Chet, they'll have a copy of the notes to this presentation and a bunch of links so that you can go in and delve into this stuff in detail if you want. But one of the things that really alarmed me was the assistant to Justin Trudeau in Canada wrote an article, and it talked about the new world that we're entering into. And when you get up in the morning, the cloud will recognize that you're not really feeling that right, and it'll change your chemistry, and all of these sustainability and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, what are they talking about here? You know, I've never heard any of this stuff. And I started to realize, putting all this stuff together, that I've got to look into this a little bit more, you know, and delve into it. So that was my evolution. How many people had a similar evolution to that? Okay, so we've got some work to do tonight. So what some people are going to experience is tonight, it would be a paradigm shift. Do you see an old woman or a young woman here? How many see an old woman? How many see a young woman? Okay, some smart people see both. So the idea here is that if you see an old woman, and all of a sudden you're looking for that young woman, oh, you get an aha moment, right? I see the young woman now. See, your perspective is completely changed. Okay, this paradigm shift is what I experienced through that evolution process, and it was a very negative paradigm shift. And I actually had what you call cognitive dissonance. It was very upsetting to me. Okay, when you can't trust your government, and you can't trust a lot of there's so much propaganda and psyops out there, you don't know what to trust anymore. So I want to bring this to everyone's attention in that, first of all, we will be experiencing additional paradigm shifts, and we will want to try to have other people that we deal with experience the paradigm shift as well. But be aware what you're asking them to do, because they will go into cognitive dissonance. And most people, they'll just say, no, I don't want any parts of this because it's too upsetting to me. I can't believe it. Okay? So we've got a big job to do. So we talked about political solution through the Republican Party. Yes, we're going to try to still do that. We're very active. The elections are over for now. We're all very involved in that. Convention states is another avenue. And that's also involved with that. And then we have a grassroots solution. And I would say that it's kind of a partial solution. And that would be self-sufficiency in a parallel economy. So basically what we're talking about is community by community morphing into unity. Okay? So again, we'll talk about, is a change in tactics required? We want to use our critical thinking, get our thinking right, and that will enable us to have the correct belief, and then our behavior will be proper. Okay, so that's the whole reason for this process. Now, one of the things that I want to mention is that the trends, the parallel economy here is kind of based on, and the suggestions that I have tonight, is kind of based on what I'm seeing out there in the real world. When I started into this, I wanted to join an active group, and I joined American Frontline Doctors. And I also, by accident, we had a member of American Frontline Doctors at Tioga, PA, but by accident I went to the Tioga County website, and I'm going to talk about that. Tioga County Patriot website, and then the Beaver County Patriots. So if you look at American Frontline Doctors, these are the 5 pillars that they have: community, education, medical, local business, and faith. That's what attracted to me. I feel that change is going to come through those areas. We need to defend those areas. We need to expand those areas. Homeschooling is one avenue that we can take to get our kids out of the public schools. And have alternative schools as well. Medical, that's one of the reasons I thought Frontline Doctors was great, because it gives us access to a separate medical system. Local business, supporting the local businesses, and faith. If we go on to Tioga County, if you go to their website, you'll see education, faith, live local, eat local, health, prepping, unity, and news. Very similar to American Frontline Doctors, right? Go to Beaver County. Here we've got Joel right here for Beaver County Patriots, right here. Yeah. We got Kristen Bannerman here, president of Washington County Patriots. Very supportive. They're awesome. You're awesome down there, people. And so I got hooked up with Diana Campbell, actually through one of Jet's partners. And she has done some unbelievable work. She's been at this for 6 years. She's gotten over 200 people vaccine mandate exemptions. And she's kind of burnt out, but she's still working at it. And then Right to Liberty is with Kelly Miller and Diana. And if you look at where they're involved with the political side, health services and supplements, medical tyranny resistance, fighting vaccine mandates, and they just started getting involved with food supply through Farm Match, which is matching people up with a local farm. So you can see what's happening here. I think we were on the right path in terms of the grassroots movement. Did I hit something wrong? No one taught me to hit the right button. Everyone's going to have this memorized by the time we're done. All right. So now we're going to be moving on to what challenges are we facing, as an example. And this is just some of them. In 2019, I don't think there's one person here who was thinking about any of these things. Now we're looking at pandemic 2 coming. Of course, everyone says, many people say that we're still in a pandemic because they want us to get into that frame of mind. You know, they have over 500 vaccines on the drawing boards for us to be taking by the year 2030. That's in the World Health Organization. Go to their website. I can send you the link on it. 500 vaccines. Roll up your sleeve.
So we can call the plandemic, right?
Oh, I call it the pandemic, yeah. So biometric IDs and passports, they're really pushing that, as you know. We've got inflation, U.S. dollar collapse of fiat currencies, cyber weapons, energy blackouts. I think that's going to be a tactic that's used more and more. Food scarcity in the Netherlands. People are familiar with the fact that the farmers, are rebelling, and they have the support of the country for the most part in the Netherlands. They're the number 2 exporter of food in the world. Neil Simons.
3,000 farms.
I'm sorry?
3,000 farms they want to shut down.
Right, they're shutting down, the government's shutting down 3,000 farms right now. And one of the guys, one of the bloggers I listened to, he mentioned that, he said, you know, they were talking about a plan to buy all of the farmers out in the Netherlands. And he said they're going to buy about 12,000 farms. And he looked it up, and he said there's 11,700 farms in the Netherlands. So they're actually talking about buying all of them. So that's quite a change. Elimination of cash, geoengineering. You get the idea. We have a lot to think about, to face. Yeah. So here's some other things, some challenges. Biodivergence, that's the genetic editing through the vaccines. Transhumanism, which is direct connect to the cloud. Bio IDs. This is where we'll get into the digital ID prison here in a little bit, but they will be tracking your carbon footprint, your vaccine status, your social credit score. You know, if you speak at a Butler County Patriot, you won't be able to buy food for a week. They will approve and disapprove all financial transactions. Taxes automatically deducted from your account. So these are the things that we're looking forward to. Not to mention the wars. How many people here voted for the Ukraine war? That's a good idea, right? So that's where we're at. A little venting here. So we're meeting the challenges. How are we going to meet the challenge? First, by recognizing what is going on. The World Economic Forum talks about the public-private partnership. That is a definition of Nazism. Fascism. Thank you. And what's interesting is that they understand that when they come up with a new policy, they'll have many mechanisms to force that policy on the people, but the government won't have to do it because they'll have industry do it for them. They'll have the airlines do it for them, they'll have the food people do it for them, whatever industry it is. So in order to choose the most effective tactics, we need to think about that and recognize what we're dealing with. So one of the things we could do is we're going to respond to the threats through self-preservation and self-sufficiency, and a parallel economy is a natural response to that. Evil takes place in many different forms. This is a bunch of German guys and women in the World War II. I'm a German. Here's Uncle Jimmy with the accordion there. No, but these are the people that were running Auschwitz. So we have to understand that when you are propagandized, evil takes many forms, and it's not only the people that are running the show, it's also people that support it and don't even know what's going on. Uh-oh.
They know what we're doing.
Oh, is it the one on the right?
Just this one. That's it.
Oh, okay.
When you lift the other
I can use the other one. There we go. Thank you. So they've got plans for us all. Here's Klaus Schwab. He's with the World Economic Forum, and he's going to explain to you what their
It's at
plans
the
are.
end, what the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities.
Fusion of our digital, biological entities. Go to black again. There we go. Down there.
But my favorite economic forum speaker of all time is this reptile, Klaus Schwab's top advisor, Dr. Yuval Noah Harari. Let's see what he has to say.
Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it.
Elites hacking organisms and re-engineering life itself? Well, He's not talking about doing that to people, is he?
Now, in the past, many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough, and nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people.
Well, I guess he was talking about doing that to people. All people, to be specific.
And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed.
Not playing God, are you? Because that usually works out super well.
Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds.
Oh, you are playing God. Say more.
Evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution.
Gosh, you wouldn't by chance have a plan in place on how to control people with your cloud technology, would you? And that plan isn't by chance already being implemented, is it?
Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale.
Oh, so you could implement it.
In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste.
Sounds familiar. And I guess you are implementing it already. Didn't anyone bother telling this guy not to say any of this out loud on camera? It's a lot of evidence.
Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin. My brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective?
This guy's revealing the whole plan. He's going to ruin it. The World Economic Forum, out for the good of humanity. You'll own nothing, not even your own DNA, if we have our way. No.
There you go.
Here's his top guy again.
Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over.
Free will, that's over.
Isn't that nice? Someone said arrogance. I heard him say out here. He really is arrogant. It's incredible. But so the idea of I was reading one article that was talking about a gene or a God gene, so that they can interrupt the senses between the area of the brain that permits you to communicate with the spiritual realm, or some would say think that you do. But that free will and that spiritual experience that many of us feel that we have, that will not be permitted and it will not be available to us anymore if they genetically change. They're going to be talking about here in a minute, and they're talking about two types of humans, the elite and a subspecies. So if this doesn't get your attention, I mean, it really should. So the WEF partners, who are the World Economic Forums? Virtually every major corporation in the world. World Economic Forum Youth Global Leaders, they have a program for decades. Justin Trudeau went through the program. Merkel from Germany went through the program. Klaus Schwab brags about the fact that over 50% of the parliament in Canada are youth global leader graduates. So they control Canada. Here's the UN Agenda 2030 sustainability. They have 17 sustainability goals called SDGs, affecting literally every aspect of your life. And I'll show this in a diagram here in a little bit, but the digital ID will be required to access any and all areas accompanied by 100% surveillance. So I do have links to this complete agenda available. One example would be the Food is Medicine campaign. And food will be grown indoors by mega corporations, so that's why they're trying to buy up all the farmers. Food is often synthetic, lab-grown meat, insect for protein. Enjoy your crickets. Food genetically modified and vaccinated. Example, they're vaccinating cattle now, so they're going to be continually experimenting in all those areas. And all of this is done in the name of inclusion, sustainability, climate, convenience, your protection, and the greater collective. Who could argue with that, right? So, one of the ways that they're going to leverage everyone into this system is through digital identity, okay? That's why they're pushing these biometric IDs. I know someone who tried to get workman's comp through the state of Pennsylvania, and they force you to get a biometric ID before you could collect benefits. So they're going to leverage all of the people that need some kind of government benefit. They're going to work on them first to get them into the system. But once you have this digital ID, in order to access healthcare, financial services, food sustainability, food, travel and mobility, humanitarian responses, e-commerce, social platforms, government, telecommunications, smart cities, you're going to have to be approved in order to do any of those things. Like in China, if you go to a protest in China, they put make your CR code red so that you can't leave your home. So this is how the plan will work. Any questions? Is everyone happy? So I talked about capturing the low-income population first, and one of the things I do want to mention in terms of this digital ID are the sensors. It's the grid and the sensors that need to be taken down. In other words, look up. If you go down the city of Butler and you see new 5G cells and a new light pole with a bunch of microphones and cameras on it, we ought to all be down there, all of us, saying, who authorized this? We don't want it. And they're doing this in the rural communities as well. Now, to give you an example of what these smart city light poles will have, they'll have cameras, and so if you look up at them, they'll use facial recognition to identify you. They'll have microphones. They will have, of course, lights. They'll be able to track every person or vehicle in the area. They have the technology, and they're playing with it. They have what they call puke ray technology. That's a light system that has certain frequencies, and it makes you sick. So they can use that to control crowds and that type of thing. They're also talking about a drone charging station. And you can imagine weaponized drones, getting their charging their batteries there. So this is something we need to understand, be able to recognize it, and when they start building this stuff, because they have the money to do it, who authorized it? We want to know. This is not Republican or Democrat. So here's our personal commitments. Do not fear these people. It gives them power over you. Dismantle the fairy tale stuff. Educate yourself. Find out what is going on so that you can act, get your thinking straight. Follow the money to get to the truth. Get off the control grid. As I say, look up and refuse the 5G and sensor installs, and take responsibility. One of the things that's trending here now today is that people just don't want to take responsibility for their own lives. They want government to do it for them. All right, now we're going to talk about the financial climate and where we're at. We're going to go into central bank digital currencies. And we're not talking about a parallel economy right now, because if we don't understand why we need to do what we need to do and how to respond, if you don't know your enemy, you can't, there's no reason to talk about the solution. And parallel economy is basically self-preservation. And that's why I think if we can set up a template, there will be waves of people coming that will want to take advantage of it. But if we are not already organized and welcoming them in, you know, the latecomers won't know what to do. Okay? So the financial climate, we've got a debt-based system that may implode, liquidity may freeze, bond market failure, stock market failure. FTX is a crypto exchange bankruptcy, and that just occurred. They funneled money through Ukraine. By the way, Ukraine has 30% of the weapons that go to Ukraine. It's only 30% get to the Ukraine. Hey, where's the other 70% go? No one wants to know that, I guess, you know? So they some of them just showed up in Africa, by the way. I just read an article on that. Crypto exchange bankruptcy. This was money funneled through the Ukraine back to, it's just unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. Back to FTX and given to the, not only Democrats, but also the Republicans. McConnell got millions of dollars. And I can't remember, the one House leaders, they were Democrat. I'm sorry? McCarthy as well, yeah. But anyway, they asked her, well, what about this situation? She said, well, the Republicans got the money to do too, so, you know, it's crazy. The U.S. Treasury yield curve inversion has been inverted all year, as well as the Euro, Germany, and Japan. That means that no one trusts any of the financial institutions. They don't want to lend money to you for long periods of time. That's why the curve is inverted. That always tells you a recession is coming. Okay, wars and rumors of wars. We've got over 1,000, that's $1 quadrillion, $1,000 trillion of derivatives. So I'm not going to get into the derivative side of things, but that's trillions, that's a lot of money that if one domino falls, the other easily fall. So is the Federal Reserve insolvent? I think it's important for you to hear a little bit of technical. It's only 1 minute, and this guy is one of my favorites. He's kind of a nerdy guy. Love the guy. He's a silver guy, but his name's Rafi, and he's going to talk about the Federal Reserve, and then he's going to talk about Credit Suisse, which is a Swiss bank, and they're on the edge. And I want you to listen and pay attention. There'll be the second video. Pay attention to what he says about CBDCs, if you will. There is hope.
And now, what I said we were going to go into the earnings of the Federal Reserve, the bank whose liability is the US dollar itself. So, you see here these little columns. They show here the cost, first of all, of Treasury securities. We have $5,873,710,000,000 of amortized cost of U.S. Treasury securities, and then the fair value in the second column, which is $5.186 trillion, and you have a loss there of $687 billion in the Treasury security portfolio. Add to that a $438 billion loss in the mortgage-backed securities portfolio, And together that is a $1.125 trillion loss on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet.
100 billion.
So 1.125 trillion over 8.6 trillion, I think it's about a 15-16% loss of the entire value of the balance sheet. This is serious, folks, and it does.
That's enough of that one. Let's actually stop there on purpose.
This is their derivative portfolio. This is in billions. So this number 14,555.3, that's $14 trillion. The biggest section of these derivatives are interest rate swaps, which go down in value as interest rates rise. And so this derivative portfolio is the real problem here. If Credit Suisse goes under, there's going to be margin calls. They're going to have to sell these things. It's going to lead to the same thing that happened in the UK when there were forced margin calls that brought the whole bond market down, or the gilt market, and then the Bank of England had to intervene. So if Credit Suisse is not rescued, the pyramid will come down. Credit Suisse will be rescued, and it will be rescued by another global round of money printing, which is soon to come. Exactly when, I do not know, but it is coming. The total amount of derivative instruments here is $17.4 trillion, which is enough to knock down the entire $600 trillion, or some say $1.5 quadrillion derivative pyramid that is rotting the financial world, and that rot is about to take over and kill it, which is a very good thing, because we have this thing called central bank digital currencies that are being born, that are in utero right now, and that they want to bring out into the open as soon as possible. One thing I wanted to make clear about these CBDCs is that we do not have to worry about them for the long term. They might come into existence and cause our lives to be living hells for a short period of time, as the government will have complete control over the monetary system, and there will be no escape, and they will know every transaction you ever make. But what must be emphasized here is that CBDCs are not fundamentally different from a monetary perspective from the digital dollars that are in your checking account right now. It is not a new pyramid. It will be another layer of the current pyramid. And when a king's throne gets shaky, the only thing he knows how to do is build it higher, which makes it even shakier. And so CBDCs will not stabilize the financial pyramid. They will make it even shakier, if they even make it to their birth, which I have my doubts as to whether they will. And so as terrifying as central bank digital currencies are, we do not have to worry about them as long-term enslavement, because they will not survive long before the public attacks it through hyperinflation and destroying the entire throne of the financial hooligans and thieves of the world.
So, any questions at this point?
It's a derivative.
A derivative, it's a bet, it's a side bet, okay? You and I decide we're gonna go down to the road a mile, okay, and I'm gonna drop you off somewhere. So are we gonna get there? Well, that's the main bet. Well, is the car gonna break down on the way? That's a side bet. So they take like a stock and they create, it's like a mortgage-backed security. They'll take a bunch of bad mortgage, good and bad, they'll put them all together and they'll sell them to the stock market. So all of these, they're side bets to the prime. Does that make sense? It's guessing. It's guessing. It's just a way to make money, and but there's a ton of money in them. Like I say, there's over 1,000 trillion amount of money in derivatives in the world right now. So we're going to talk about CBD. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the best, like, if you have money, if you invest money, or do you just keep money under your mattress?
Well, that's an investor advice. I can't give investor advice, and I can. That would be a question. I'd be happy to talk to you at another time about it, and I can tell you what some of the things that I do, but I can't. Okay. So we need to talk about CBDs just a little bit. Dare we talk about CBDCs?
How dare you?
I love Greta. She always shows up. So this guy here is the Bank of International Settlements. Oh, by the way, I wanted to go back to that one slide. This is one of the first times that our central bank, the Federal Reserve, is losing money, over $1 trillion in 1 month. Who bails out your central bank? I mean, it's like you said, it's a serious problem. So this guy here is the general manager for Augustine. His name is Augustine Parsons, and the Bank of International Settlements is the central bank of central banks. They run the whole shebang. The Euro Bank, the Federal Reserve, they all report to this guy. And here's what he has to say about CBDCs.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
So, two things that he said very important there are that they will have absolute control over the transactions, approval or disapproval, and they will know whatever transaction has been made for every individual. So that's the essence of CBDCs, is to give the central bankers, I call them banksters, control over the entire economy and over the entire properties. I'm going to go very quickly through this. Poor people are taking, when they do come out with the CBDC, they're testing them in New York now. There are numerous countries that have them. In Nigeria, they're failing. No one wants to use them. They're using Bitcoin down there. But the government has now just come out with a maximum of $45 per day that you can get out of your ATM to try to leverage the people to use the Nigerian CBDC. So they're going to get the poor people are going to be taken care of when they come out, roll out this program. And these are not facts. These are speculations based on history. Okay? It hasn't happened yet. So if we look at the failures of fiat currencies in the past, what happened? Greece. Exactly. That's part of what's in here. Okay? So the poor people will be taken care of. Amounts under $100,000 will be converted immediately to CBDC. And of course, everyone's going to be getting universal income to try to get them into the program. Rich people will have to wait to convert larger asset amounts, and the government will convert for pennies on the dollar. Cash not converted, it'll be worthless. Some US dollar denominated assets will be worthless. Negative interest rates will be used to control dollar flow. In other words, you have your CBDC, you sign up, you put $3,000 in there. I'm just using that as an example. You get your $3,000. At the end of, they said, well, there's 5% interest, negative interest on that. So if you don't spend it at the end of the year, you'll have not 3,000, you'll have whatever, 3,000 minus 5%. So it'll make people want to spend that money. And again, it's not based on anything, it's just they're making it up out of thin air. All transactions approved and disapproved. There will be tremendous volatility of asset values, sometimes unknown values. So whenever you roll out a CBDC and people are questioning the value of the currency, and I expect to have a financial collapse of some sort in that time period as well, I don't think they're going to be able to time the CBDC. They won't have it ready in time before there's problems financially. financially for us. So that's why I say they're going to be a lot of unknown values. You go to buy some wheat, he doesn't want the dollar. Well, I'll give you some silver. Well, how much? I mean, so there's no. You just have to fly by the seat of your pants.
Biden's already signed a bill about that, right?
That's correct. Executive order. Yeah. They don't have bills anymore. It's all executive order. Banks and ATM closures. We can move on to the next. What's that? That's a guess. There are countries like China's had a CBDC for some time now. India is just rolling theirs out. United States in New York City, or not New York City, well, yes, New York City, they are testing their CBDC. There's two types of CBDCs, a wholesale and retail. The wholesale CBDC is between the big bankers, and they're testing the international payment system for that right now on the wholesale level. So this is the question, okay? When they come out with the CBDCs, are you going to enter the program or not? You want to be preparing yourself for whether you want to go into the prison ID system or not. And if not, then what do you do? That's why the parallel economy is, we need to take the money from, and I'd rather pay everyone in this room money to buy things from them than pay the big corporations. There's 17 corporations in the world that produce 97% of the food that we eat. So we need to change that. Now, here's my suggestion. Here's what we're having this conversation, and here's what I came up with in terms of looking at the trends. If I were to sit down with Zach, hey Zach, let's get this thing rolling. Let's try this out. First of all, you cannot put the horse before the cart, or you can't put the cart before the horse. You do want to put the horse before the cart. Hey, I'm not Amish. So what I mean by that is that a economy is a complex system, and all of these questions are complex. So you want to do your appropriate planning. You don't want to just jump into it. You want to have well thought out action plans so that everyone knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and you test everything that you're doing. Okay? In the meantime, okay, I've got 4 priorities on the parallel economy. And by the way, there's only 10 slides here, so we're almost done, so bear with me. Number 1 is to continue what we're doing. We had a good program with AFLDS, American Frontline Doctors, and Garrett, my man over here, was before I just terminated my relationship with them. But while we were there, they had a Telegram channel, and if there was a state legislative bill that we need to act on in terms of calling our representatives or rally, whatever, it would go on. It would be pinned on the Telegram channel, and we would all know to do that. Okay, that should be something that we and every like-minded person like us should have one system that, or at least similar systems, so that everyone's doing that and we're organized that way. I mean, you look at Tony Shoup from the election, what's her?
On the vote.
On at the vote, thank you. She's got 10,000 followers on Telegram. So, I mean, we unify, we can get this thing rocking and rolling. So, there'll be calls to action. It would also be one of the things that we're going to want to do is connect with the community. I've looked at this, looking at how I am going to participate in making a difference. I like what Denzel Washington said when he was asked, hey, how have we done as black people, and how has the government done? Where are we at now? And Denzel looked at him and said, hey, where are you at now? Where's your family? Are you a good father? So that's the good, that's the answer. It starts here, right? It starts here, and it starts with my neighbors. So the first people I'm going to be talking to are my neighbors and the people in my community about this program once it's organized. And so once we get the neighbors, once we get the community organized, you get a lot of communities organized, then the county is organized. Does that make sense? So grassroots, it's ground up. I hit the wrong button again. But I think I'm good. We talked about the digital ID prisons. I talked about looking out for those sensors. Priority number 2 is local businesses. And I've chosen food as an example. When we begin to approach other people to get them into the program and support the program, they're going to have to know why do they want to boycott these big corporations. Why can't I have my Starbucks anymore? Why can't I just go to Walmart? Walmart's going to have, you go to the cashier, they're going to have the cameras up there, facial recognition. And if you went on a vacation and your carbon credit is too high, they won't let you buy certain things because those are carbon credit things. Yeah.
When we get to that point, that's when the government will outlaw masks.
Yeah, that's when we won't be wearing masks anymore. Exactly right. So food is really kind of a natural, again, self-preservation thing. They're vaccinating the cattle. They're testing vaccines to coat the lettuce with. You know, I'd rather buy from a local farmer that I know I'm getting organic, good food, and I'd rather make him rich. We also need to, as far as I'm concerned, support and defend the farmers. So here's just some ideas. Develop and implement a plan that will address potential food scarcity and provide food security for each community. Farm to family supply programs, perhaps have community contracts so that the farmers know that they don't have to really go out and try to sell. This community is gonna buy everything you make, or these 5 communities are gonna buy everything you make. They did that near Philadelphia, and the U.S. Marshals came in and arrested the farmer. Sourcing of food products are not available in Western Pennsylvania. There are existing, like I say, this is not my idea. This is being done throughout the country. People are wise enough to it. People want to make money at it. So there are programs and software available, like Farm Match and so forth, that you can employ. Also, if you talk about food scarcity, we should be talking to our food banks. You know, do you have enough food? What's it like right now? I know Victory Family Church has a food bank, so we should get to know those. Anyone in the food that would be involved in that food category, these are things that we would be looking at and refining and holding our politicians accountable. I keep hitting the wrong button. Another thing is to think about, I'll tell you, if they come out with these CBDCs, it's going to be the biggest black market in the history of the world. So there's alternative forms of payment, bartering, precious metals, crypto, cash, gold backs. Nevada has a gold back, basically a gram of, or it's a quarter of a gram of gold in $1. So there are alternatives. We've had situations like this in the past, and in Germany, there are good examples that they actually, the community thrived once they put sound money in place. So this is another area that would have to be really prepped and understood with some plans in place that would enable us to move forward. Priority 3 is alternatives to government school systems. We already have people that are concerned about the CRT. We have people calling on the boards. I know that AFLDS, one of the members there, their group has brigades of people that will show up when called to go to the school board meetings. So I know that everyone here is kind of involved in that area already. And 4 is the medical. And you might think, well, this is something that's just not going to happen because we have a medical system, and why would doctors and nurses leave it? I'll tell you, they are miserable in these medical facilities. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in there. I come from I have a medical background. They are miserable. They hate working in the hospitals right now. So, we have to be positive after all of this stuff here. But I mean, we have to renew our faith and renew our commitment to moving forward in a positive fashion and enjoy each other while we're doing it. So these are, again, just kind of general goals. Countywide focus on local businesses, boycott big corp, take back the revenue we've given the big corp and give it to ourselves, take back control of the monetary system and currencies. And this is important, a general philosophy to have while we to build into the culture would be to adapt ideas to our needs in our context. In other words, every community is different, every county is different. Allegheny County, you can imagine, is going to be completely different than Butler. So we need to adapt the ideas and do practical, doable things that we can accomplish in terms of the context of who we are. So the action plan is something that if you think we're going to move in this direction, or if you want to think about doing so, you would have an organizational committee, do some research or planning. I would even suggest having a separate organization or partnering with another organization and calling yourself something bland, like Butler County Commerce Partners or something like that. Rather than get the politics out of it. Leadership is going to leadership with the structure. How are we going to hold those people accountable? Define the working committees, and all this will be done in a manner that is very small at first, very doable at first, starting with your own family, then your community, and make sure it works there, and then we can take it. And if we're successful, we can take it to different other counties as well. Identify revenue producing opportunities. Soros is not going to be handing us any checks anytime soon. So as we get these businesses rolling, we need to think about how we're going to generate revenue. Because I'd give up my job to do this full time, but I still need to do some work. And also, as I mentioned, identify potential partners. Food banks, churches, other county groups. We want to unify different types of organizations. As I say, this is not a political program. I talked about family, community, and then county. I've covered all these items. I think I'm getting close to the end here. How do we motivate so many to join the parallel economy? First of all, we need to approach prospects with topics on which we can get easy agreement. Food, you know, here's what's coming. Are you aware of this, that, and the other? I didn't know that. Well, we want to make sure you have food. I'm concerned about food, so here's what I've done. Would you like to join? Would you like to sign a contract with this farmer for organic food? Yes, no, okay, no big deal. You know, products and services are well defined with a program established. So we want to detail where we are now, where we're going, and the benefits to the community, so that we can bring some people on board. And then secondly, as we move forward, as I say, I believe that there are going to be waves of people seeking this program out, seeking food, seeking an alternative payment system. I don't know, there's so many unknowns that we need to, as we go forward, things are changing, and so we're going to have to be very flexible and adapt as we move forward. And if like I say, don't put the cart before the horse. If it's a great idea, but it's not practical and it's not going to work, then we scrap that idea. You know, if food isn't one of the things we want to do, then you go to the next one. But you get the idea on that. So the choice that people are going to make is to comply and become a slave and prisoner to the system, and with no freedom, or become self-sufficient, join and support your community in a parallel economy, which is the only available alternative. Then, assuming success, you can take this to other counties. Thank you, Butler County Patriots.